So looking forward to the election integrity, our team's working on education and how we can become more knowledgeable. So before we get started with Senator Hughes and Representative Jetton, I wanted to reach out to Donna and see, Donna, are you on this morning? Our election expert, our election integrity expert.
I'm here.
Are you here? Okay.
Yes,
so
I
Donna,
am.
tell us about the book that you and Eric Opiella have just published. Where can we find it and what is it about?
Okay, well, TexasElectionLaws.com. What is it about? It is the law, just updated. The good part is that it's updated through the second special session. So if you happen to be a county chair, a precinct chair, somebody who just wants to have all the current law in one place, we actually have a place that you can go get it. I have and I will be sharing the link so that you can get there just momentarily. I want to make sure you understand when we say that it's updated, we mean that if you need to look up something about poll watchers, what are poll watchers allowed to do? If you need to figure out if a precinct chairman is trying to become a candidate for public office, when does that happen? All of those answers have been in the Texas Election Code, but if you go to the one that's online at Texas Legislature, at the Legislative Service, it hasn't been updated yet. Eric Opiella is amazing with the computer, and he's already scraped all the legislation that passed and annotated with the updates, the book. Later on, probably within the next edition, we will actually have case law citations. So for those of you who want to try to dig in a little deeper or understand how things have changed, there will be more there. For example, the term residence has come up several times. I'm outside counsel to the Republican Party of Texas for the application for a ballot process. And a lot of people have been asking, what does it take to be a resident? Well, it depends. What office are you running for? And now there is a new section 1.015 that you have to be cognizant of. Does that affect state representative and state Senate candidates? No. Yes. What's the answer? It depends on the court. So here's what I'm going to say really quickly about that. Many calls have been coming in to me as outside counsel to RPT. So if you can disseminate some of this information, and again, tell them you are not engaged in the practice of law because you're not a lawyer unless you are, and then say, this isn't my area of practice, but this is what I heard, okay? So residence now is not just a state of mind in Texas. I think there's probably a little fix that needs to be made to what the definition is now. It says that you had to have lived there. So if you're building a house and you've registered to vote at that house that you're building, I don't think it counts, but that's just a cursory review on my part of the definition this morning. But I would like to say that state Senate and state representatives are under the Constitution, and then the Texas Election Code informs them somewhat. So I have shared the link with you. If you have any questions, Bisa, happy to answer them. It's just basically all the laws that you need to know, or you don't have to refer to SB 1, SB 1111, whatever bill it was. You can actually just call it the law and find it there.
So this would be a very handy tool for county chairs and people that are getting prepared for our next elections.
Yes, and just it's informational, but it's not, it's basically just the law right now. And it shows you what bill number in the little notes underneath each section was how it passed. So it wasn't in the session laws yet. So what we just do is we refer to the bill, then you can go back to legislature, the legislative service, do a bill history, do whatever you might need. But when we're talking about qualifications, or it's available in a binder, so you can get it. And I love my binder because I annotate it like crazy with flags and Post-it notes and underlining and highlighting. So you can get it in a handy dandy binder, or we now, because SB1 passed, we're now offering it available in a soft cover. There's some people who just prefer that. For me, I get to pull these out in court. So I like having this because if I'm in court, I can just pull out the pages and show the judge. But for those who like a soft cover, we also offer that. If you're a county chairman, it is tax exempt for you and payable with primary funds. So if you need to buy one because you are in that position, you are tax exempt for purposes of using primary funds for the purchase. Anybody can purchase it. We've got it available for non-taxable entities too. And if you want it in a searchable format, we have the PDF for just an extra $15, which, believe me, last night when I got the call, when does a precinct chairman become a candidate? Boom, I knew about where it was. I went to go find it, but it's a lot easier when you can do a searchable PDF. So it may be worth the extra $15 to you to have that hard copy that you want, and then the PDF of it.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. We're very thankful that y'all put together that book and that we have that resource. And I think it's a great resource for anybody that's really engaged in election integrity, and especially for candidates who want to make sure that they're following the law too. And it's also good for the election administrators to make sure that they're following the law. And so I think this is a very valuable resource, and I was so excited. Donna didn't call me. I mean, I was just Googling around and dogpiling around looking for Texas election integrity, and that just popped up. And so I want to thank you and Eric Opiella for putting that together for everybody. And I know it was a lot of work, and y'all really got on the point and took advantage of staying up late and getting up early and getting that deal out. So I know Karen's already told me we have a couple of election integrity questions, but we're going to hold on to our questions until the end because we do have so much. And you'll stay with us, won't you, Donna?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Senator Hughes, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start off with Representative Jetton because I know that Senator Hughes has a lot lot of information for us, and I believe Representative Jetton, could you give us a little update about the House? I know y'all had a very, very long session on Monday.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone. We did have a busy week this week. We had the hearing on the House maps on Monday. That finished about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. We did get that finally done. We had some committee amendments that we had approved and voted that out, and it'll be on the House floor on Tuesday. And so we had I think everybody is well, I can't say everybody. I think a lot of Republicans should be very proud of this map. Again, it goes from, I think we have about 83 House Republicans currently, and this will take it up to about 85, 86. And if you look at some of these races, and I'll talk a little bit about the Valley. I think I was asked to talk about that, but there's some other races that I think that we have some opportunities on that could take this, upwards of 90 plus. And so, when you look down at the Valley, there's a seat that is flipping, Ryan Guillen's seat. And when I say flipping, he has an opportunity to hold on to the seat still, but it's a seat that's now going to be the Trump won by 62% points on. A lot of the other districts in that area are 40% plus Trump areas, with some of them being as high as, House District 74 being 47.7%. House District 80 goes up to 51.6. There was a swing from Abbott's numbers to Trump's numbers between 2018 and 2020 in our favor. And I think we have an opportunity there to continue to make grounds in those areas to take more of those seats. And so overall, I think there was some good progress made, and we're going to get that one done on the House floor on Tuesday. I think it's also worth noting we had a very long hearing on Wednesday for House Bill 25, which is the not allowing boys and girls sports bill, and we got that passed out, and that'll make its way to the House floor as well. So, but happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Senator Hughes has some good reports on his side as well.
Yeah, we were really excited to see that that district on the border has the opportunity to vote. They have a common interest, and they've shown a common interest. And so I think it's really important that they have the opportunity to have representation in the Texas House as well. So that was great to see that, that group does have representation on the border. And y'all had a 16-hour session, isn't that right?
It felt like at least that much. Yes, it was a long one. We got heard from plenty of testimony, and I think that we did put together a map that fairly represents the area. And as you mentioned, it's community of interest. They're very concerned about what's happening on the border, and I think President Trump showed them that this border can be secured, that their lands can be protected, and I think that with all that's happened in the last 10 months on the border, I think we should find more support in that area. There's a stark difference in the policies that we implement to protect the border, and I think that community of interest is very interested in our policies on that. Yes,
and then so I believe I heard that the amendments had to be done by next Monday night or Tuesday night. Is that right?
So 6 p.m. on Sunday is when they're due. And that's largely to make sure that we can piece it all together and make sure that it's all legal, and then there can still be amendments to the amendments provided on throughout this until the bill is finally passed. But as far as the original amendments, those are due by Sunday at 6 p.m.
Sunday at 6, and then y'all will probably vote on it sometime next week.
It'll be on the floor Tuesday morning. I think that session starts at I want to say 10 or 11, and we'll see how long that goes. We'll vote on it that.
And our deadline. Yeah, the deadline for this special session is the
19th.
19th.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to have all 4 maps done before the 19th. That's House, Senate, SBOE, and Congress.
Well, we really appreciate all y'all's help and all the hard work. I know over there with 150 districts, all that line drawing, it takes a lot. And especially if one that I think it's funny that the Democrats are always criticizing us that we're trying to draw Republican districts. And it's like, well, y'all are trying to do the exact same thing, draw Democratic districts.
Yes,
but thank y'all. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And I know we'll probably have some questions here at the end.
Absolutely.
Okay, Senator Hughes, I know you're on. Can you give us insights to group?
Be glad to. Thank you very much. And
okay, I think he's breaking up.
I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yes. Can you?
I got you. Okay. Thank you so much. I was saying, Representative Jetton, obviously not new anymore in his first term in the House, but so much experience in elections, and what an addition he's been. I'm not in a House, but over in the Senate, we sure enjoy having him in the House. And I'm just thankful for each person on this call. Many of you I've already known, and over the last couple of months in the Capitol or at events, I'll get to meet folks, and hey, we connect on those calls, on those Zoom calls. So thank you guys for doing this. Over in the Texas Senate, we're in a similar position to the House. We have we have already passed our proposal for the Texas Senate maps, and those maps will elect a solid 19 vote majority. So you'll recall there are 31 members of the Texas Senate, and those maps should elect a solid 19 out of 31. And similarly, in the Rio Grande Valley and in South Texas, where those districts are more conservative, you'll see a couple of seats down there that are trending our way, and before long could also be electing Republicans. So we're encouraged about that. And you'll recall how this works. The Texas Senate, we've adopted our map. As Representative Jetton explained, the Texas House will adopt its map, and then we will send those bills over to the other house. And so the etiquette is that whatever map the Texas House sends us for the Texas House, we just approve that map with no changes, and the Texas House does the same thing for the Texas Senate map that we send them. And so that should be happening next week, Lord willing. And then, of course, that U.S. congressional map that Representative Jetton mentioned, we have approved that in committee over in the Senate. And this morning, the Senate will be in at 10 o'clock this morning, and we'll be debating, and I anticipate passing that U.S. congressional map. And again, it takes the current Republican districts we hold. Some of them we barely hung on to in 2020. And so it firms those up, makes those districts more solid. And of the two new districts that we are adding, because of redistricting, those Texas is adding 2 new congressional seats because our population has grown so much. One of those will be a Republican seat, and one will be a Democratic seat. So we will strengthen and increase our majority in the U.S. House. And again, that's because that's what the voters want. That's how the people of Texas are voting. We are a Republican majority state, and so we're excited about that. There'll be some amendments to that map on the Senate floor. I've got one that just does a couple of tweaks to reflect communities of interest and that sort of thing, but there'll be a few other amendments, but it's going to be a good map, and we're encouraged about that. And so also, just briefly on election integrity, we spoke about this last week. As I pivot over to that, we did pass Senate Bill 10. I introduced Senate Bill 9 and Senate Bill 10, and those have to do with just little tweaks from the major election integrity bill from the last regular session, Senate Bill 1, that everybody on this call worked so hard on. That's a strong bill with a lot of reforms, and a strong enough bill we wanted to get it passed, knowing we could always come back in a special session and make tweaks to it. And the governor has, of course, added to the call that we go back and restore the penalties that were lowered toward the end in Senate Bill 1. Overall, Senate Bill 1 increased penalties for multiple offenses. There was one set of offenses where the penalties were lowered, and that happened late in the session. And it was not worth killing the bill over. We wanted to get that bill passed and get it to the governor's desk because there's so much good stuff in it. And so now in the special session, Senate Bill 10 will restore those other penalties to what they were before Senate Bill 1. So that's on its way over to the House, and so that is out of the Senate. That was my bill, which we passed out of the State Affairs Committee and off the Senate floor. So no, that's coming. And then, Madam Chair, would you like me to talk about Arizona, what they learned and where we are in Texas on the audit process?
Yeah, I thought that would be a really good topic, looking at the Arizona findings and, how sort of Texas combats those problems. If you would do that, that'd be great.
I'd be glad to. Thank you very much. We've all heard so much about the Arizona audit. We heard about it, before it began and during the process, and the results are finally out. And some of y'all, I bet many of y'all have read about this, but the Arizona audit was private. It was done by a private contractor. The Arizona Senate Republican Caucus hired a group called Cyber Ninjas and the Republican caucus paid for the recount, and they reviewed only one county. That's Maricopa County, Arizona, and that's Maricopa County is where Phoenix is. That's, of course, the capital of Arizona. There was no official participation from the Maricopa County Elections Department. Now, it's interesting. Ultimately, here's what they found. They did a hand count. So there were 2.1 million ballots cast in Maricopa County, and they quadruple checked every single one of those ballots. And ultimately, their final hand count, the audit, it matched the official machine count. So honestly, none of us knew what to expect, and we all know that there have been concerns, and there are concerns about the 2020 election process nationwide. Of course, we do an audit to find out what's going on. We've had people say, why do you want to do an audit? Well, when you go to the doctor, do you want to do an x-ray? Don't you want to know if something's wrong, or do you just want to ignore it and bury your head in the sand? And so we want to know if there's a problem. And so in this particular audit, they hand counted 2.1 million ballots, and their hand count matched the county's official machine count. So again, when we do an audit, we want to know. It may be good news, it may be bad news, but we want to know what the answer is. And so, and we know those paper ballots are the best evidence of voter intent because they are under 24-hour surveillance and physical security. And we don't have evidence from the audit that they were altered to any material degree. So, so the sharpest concerns about the integrity of the results of that election are those hand counted ballots. So there's that. But what else did the audit tell us? It also showed us in Arizona how we can strengthen the process. And so I want to share with you some of their findings about problems they had in Arizona because they're helpful to us. In Texas. It looks like they did not perfectly follow their own standards and practices. And so here, I've just been through it, and my team and I have been through it, and here are the most important, urgent issues. One, they said, in the Arizona, their audit showed that the signature verification process for absentee ballots needs improvement and more testing, and that signatures on mail-in ballots only should be accepted when they closely match the authenticated signatures on file. And of course, I know some of you are nodding your heads because, in Texas, we solved that problem in Senate Bill 1. Because as you know, we now have voter ID for mail ballots. And so we require that driver license number or state ID number on your application. And this allows us to have accurate signature matches and then actual identification. So that was one of the primary concerns about that Arizona audit. It had to do with their mail ballot, absentee ballot process. And thankfully, we've addressed that in Texas. They also pointed this out. In that Arizona audit, they noted that those voter rolls, right, the list of voters, they just have to have constant maintenance. It's got to be unrelenting. And this process should identify and correct voter registration information for folks who moved, folks who passed away, registered more than once, and also records of voter turnout, how many people voted in the election, how many ballots were issued, how many ballots were counted, and the vote totals should match. That's not a radical concept, right? Those numbers should be the same. The number of voters and the number of ballots should be the same. And so, and that was the second major issue that they raised from the Arizona audit. And again, the good news is here in Texas, under Senate Bill 1, that we passed in the last regular session that this group was so intimately involved with. In Senate Bill 1, for the first time now, the Secretary of State can get involved in voter list maintenance. Here's the challenge we face in Texas. We believe, we're independent folks, and we believe in local control, and we want individual local governments to have as much power as we can because they're the closest to the people and they're the most accountable. And we don't like to concentrate power in one place. And it's also a practical concern. Today, Republicans control the state government. The Republicans governor appoints the Secretary of State. But what if it weren't that way? What would we want to put so much power in the Secretary of State or the Attorney General, for example, that if the Democrats were to win those offices, they could do harm? And so in Senate Bill 1, we balance that because each local county is responsible for maintaining those rolls, voter rolls. But now for the first time, the Secretary of State will have some enforcement on voter list maintenance. And when counties are shown that we have someone, for example, who registered to vote, said they were a citizen, but then that person showed up at jury duty and said, oh no, I'm not a citizen. Or a person who is registered to vote, claiming to be a citizen, and then they get a driver license from DPS and they say, no, I'm not a citizen, I'm a legal resident, I'm a student visa holder, I'm a work visa holder. Now when that happens, counties must respond, and if they don't, there are sanctions from the Secretary of State. We also, and this is important, also under Senate Bill 1, there's an interstate cross-check program called ERIC, E-R-I-C, and that is to keep track of folks who move from one state to the other to make sure that we're only voting in one state at a time. That's kind of a big deal, right? That you vote only in one state at a time. And so we've joined an interstate compact so that we can cross-check and compare notes with other states to see where people have moved and make sure that they're registered in the right place. So the second major issue that Arizona found from their audit, thankfully, has been addressed in Senate Bill 1. So we're thankful for that. They also found, and I'll just read what they wrote, election technology and machinery is too complicated and important to be overseen by amateurs. Their audit found that Maricopa County didn't take basic cybersecurity precautions to secure those electronic systems. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security that has an agency called Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security, and they have best practices that are out there that should be followed. And it just makes sense when we look at how so much of our elections that rely on electronic equipment. As you know, in Texas, in Senate Bill 1, we put a number of protections in place for those electronic systems to make sure that they're working right, to make sure that the numbers at the beginning of the day match the numbers at the end of the day, to make sure we know who's making these machines. We also have in Senate Bill 1 an open records requirement. So we get to see what promises these electronic voting machines companies are making to the counties when they try to sell the machines, and what they say the machines will do and what they promise about security. And of course, as you know, in Texas, we have already rejected those Dominion voting machines, which were a source of so many problems around the country. Those have not been certified in Texas because of concerns about security. And so that recommendation about electronic machinery, a concern in Arizona that we're addressing in Texas. And then they also, and this is interesting, they also said, here's what the audit found: election officials have to make sure that all evidence is preserved, and that a top to bottom audit of an election can take place when they need one. Now, the audit found, and again, we're talking about Maricopa County, Arizona, the audit found that the county overwrote the entire activity log in its system. What that means is where everything was being recorded from the last election, that they recorded over that. Now the county disputes that, and so we won't get into a swearing match, but the audit found that the county messed up those records. The county disputes that. And again, we want to have transparency and cooperation from elections officials. And so based on that, we filed Senate Bill 47. Senator Paul Bettencourt, well known to this group, filed Senate Bill 47 in Texas, and we just passed that in the Senate as well. I'm happy to visit with you, Madam Chair, if you'd like, about what's in Senate Bill 47 about audits in the past, the audit of the 2020 election, and also audits going forward. That's kind of a recap of the Arizona audit results and what they mean for Texas. Would you like me to talk about the audit, the 2020 forensic audit bill we passed in the Senate? Would this be a good time for that?
Yes, it would, Senator Hughes. That would be great if you give an update.
Thank you. I'd be glad to. So that's what happened in Arizona. And again, I'm sure many of folks on this call know more about that than I do. We'll probably have some details to add, and hopefully no corrections to make. But if you do, that's fine as well. But that's the high spots on the Arizona audit. And so in Senate Bill 1, And during the regular session, back in Texas now, jumping back home, in the regular session and in Senate Bill 1, for the first time, we did something we've tried to do for years, and that is requiring that paper backup for electronic voting. I know everybody on this call gets that, knows how important that is. You can't do a recount. You can't do an audit really without those paper records. And so that's the law in Texas now. And Senator Lois Colcourt's bill during the regular session requires not just paper backup for electronic voting, but requires audits going forward. Then on Senate Bill 1, there was an amendment added in the House that also had to do with audits going forward for our elections to make sure we're getting it right. And then in the special session, the second special session, the Senate passed a bill that also provides for a recount looking back to 2020. Of course, the special session timed that, and so here, the second one, here we are in the third special session, and Senator Paul Bettencourt filed Senate Bill 47. Some of you may have read about Senate Bill 47, which is available online. You know Senator Bettencourt, who was himself the tax assessor collector in Harris County, and of course that was the chief elections official, so he was in charge of those elections. He knows this system very well, and so, and y'all know that looking back to November 2020, there were some irregularities that gave folks concerns about the accuracy. There's supposed to be daily reports with the results of early voting. Some of those were incorrect. Some polling places stayed open much later than others. Electronic poll books didn't have complete or correct information in some cases, and also the chain of custody for those ballots wasn't documented very well in some cases. Poll workers didn't qualify voters through the right process, and most troubling, we'd have precincts where there were more votes than voters in a precinct or a polling place. That's a real problem when we have more votes than we have voters. And of course, poll watchers were obstructed in some cases from being able to observe election activity. So Senate Bill 47 gives us two tools. One is an audit process for future elections. So going forward, under Senate Bill 47, going forward, an audit can be requested, a review can be requested by anyone who participated in the election as a candidate, county chair or state chair of a political party, presiding judge, alternate presiding judge, or the head of a specific purpose political action committee that supports or opposes a ballot measure. As you know, many times the elections aren't about people, they're about ballot measures, propositions. And then the person listed above can request an explanation of an action taken by the election officer that looks like it violates the code. They can ask for an explanation of irregularities in a precinct or a polling place or an early voting polling place, or the inadequacy or irregularity of the documentation that's supposed to be maintained under the code. And if the county can't give a satisfactory answer, then they can go to the Secretary of State and proceed with an audit. And if an election code violation is found, Secretary of State will notify the county, and if they don't reply, don't respond, don't fix it, there's a fine of $500 per violation per day. And these audits are also at the expense of the county. Again, we're not beating up on the counties, but if there's a problem that they refuse to remedy and they created, then the audit will be their expense. So that's what we'll be doing under Senate Bill 7 going forward for election audits in the future. But what about 2020? What about 2020? Obviously, President Trump won in 2020. Republicans held every seat in the U.S. House, held our majority in the Texas House and the Texas Senate. But again, if there's been a lot of questions about the process, and Senate Bill 1 gave us some really good reforms, but people still have questions about what exactly happened in 2020. So our position has been, when our Democratic friends have said they're against the audit, my question to them has been, well, what are we afraid of? Don't we want to know if there's a problem? Surely we want to know if there's a problem in the process, and so we can do better. And so here's what Senate Bill 47 will give us in terms of the 2020 election. A manual recount. Again, this is a manual recount of all ballots voted by any method in a precinct or polling place where the number of ballots cast exceeds the total number of voters accepted in the precinct or at the polling place. Again, we had this happen in many cases, most notably in Harris County, our largest county, where we had a lot more votes than we have voters. That's clearly a problem. And of course, we understand the importance of a random selection of ballots voted by mail. In fact, 20% of all ballots voted by mail randomly selected to see if there's a problem. And then what about those ballots they rejected? You know, that signature verification process is important. What about the ballots that they rejected? We like to see those, or more Republican ballots being knocked out than Democratic ballots. That's obviously important. And also for ballots voted on election day. And an audit under this section will be not less than 3 and not more than 5 contested races or ballot measures. And at least one has to be from a federal office, one from a statewide office, and one from a county office. So at least one federal, one state, one county, and it can be more than that. And of course, this process is overseen by the Secretary of State. And then we added an amendment by Senator Bob Hall on the Senate floor that sets up a legislative oversight committee so that legislators elected by the people of Texas will be able to oversee this process as well. So again, Arizona, jumping back briefly to Arizona, their hand recount of every ballot, the final count matched the results from the electronic machine count, but they did find some real problems in their system. Those problems were already addressed in Texas law, or we addressed them in Senate Bill 1. So overall, we're encouraged about where we are after Senate Bill 1. If you look at Texas compared to other states, we do have a much better system, and we're thankful for that. It doesn't mean it's perfect, and we always want to make it better. We're not going to be satisfied with what we have. Always want to make it better. But that's where we are with Arizona. And then as far as the audits going forward, we have some already in the law from Senator Colcourt's bill and from Senate Bill 1. We already have some audit process going forward. In Senate Bill 47, in this special session, this third and maybe final special session, we have Senate Bill 47 by Senator Paul Bettencourt that we passed in the Senate, and it's on its way. It's on its way over. So another long-winded talk from me, but that's those are some of the matters, Madam Chair, you and I talked about beforehand, and thought might be helpful to bring folks up to date on. So that's where we are. I'm happy to yield for questions whenever you're ready, if that's appropriate. But that's.
Yeah, I really appreciate you going over that Senate Bill 47 and letting everybody know that we have another election integrity bill, 2 more election integrity bills, but that House bill, it would be very important for us to be sure to be able to go back and look at those votes. And so engage with your state reps and, show the support that you have for that bill. And it would be great if we could be able to take that bill out of this session as well. All right, Karen Marshall, are you out there?
You betcha.
I know. All right, so I'm going to let you put people on the hot seat.
All right, legislators. The first question, I'm going to start with the redistricting questions and then move to the election integrity questions. So the first question is, where can we find Republican and Democrat ratings for the proposed Texas House districts and U.S. Congress districts? Or do we have to rely on precinct results from the 2020 election?
I can answer some of that. So what we go off of is prior election results, right? Because we don't register for a party here in Texas. And so it is going to be based off of 2020 election results or 2018 election results. And those are not available in the redistrictor deal, but you can download the CSV file and put that into District Builder and be able to break down or be able to project out or see the election results for those new districts.
All right. The next question is regarding a comment that Senator Hughes made. It said, if it is just etiquette to approve each other's report, why is it necessary for each house to approve the map of the other? Doesn't this just give the Democrats a chance to block the passage?
That is a great question, and I probably shouldn't have called it etiquette, but here's what I meant. Here's what I meant by that. The redistricting map, where those lines fall, that's a bill. That's a statute like any other bill. So it's got to be passed by both houses and signed by the governor. So that's why the Senate map has to be approved by the House, and the House map has to be approved by the Senate. So begin with that presumption. The redistricting maps are bills. They are pieces of legislation, and so constitutionally have to be passed by the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. So that's where we begin. When I talk about the etiquette, again, that is the House defers to the Senate and the Senate defers to the House. And by the way, there's an interesting tradition on this, and I know we don't care much about tradition when they get in the way, but when it's time to pass these House and Senate redistricting maps, they open the doors to the Senate chamber, open the doors to the House chamber, so that the speaker, who's on the dais in the House, and the lieutenant governor is on the dais in the Senate, can see each other way across the Capitol. They just barely see each other. And then the parliamentarians who advise them, they get on the phone, and then they count down, and then at exactly the same time, the Senate will pass the House map, and the House will pass the Senate map. It's sort of a way to, it's sort of symbolic, but just to make sure that we are passing each other's maps with no changes. So every redistricting map is a bill that's got to go through both houses. That's the law. So constitutionally, the Senate could make changes to the House map, and the House could make changes to the Senate map. But it's been our practice, I'd use the term etiquette, for us to pass the House map just like they send it to us, and the House passes the Senate map just like we send it to them.
All right. Kathleen Tippy asks, who do we speak to concerning a corner, Callahan, of our county being drawn out of our House district? Rural counties struggle to get representation as it is without dividing. Please advise.
So on the House maps, we are accepting amendments until 6 p.m. on Sunday, and so you're more than welcome to email me, and I can take a look at that. My email, I'll put my email in the chat.
Awesome. And then Fred Reitman asks, how is the formation of the new CD 38 expected to impact the adjacent purple district of CD 7 currently held by Fletcher? I've heard it will effectively protect her by making CD 7 more blue.
So CD 7 would push farther south and west into actually Fort Bend County, where I'm at, and it will be more Democrat when it's done.
And if you think about that process, I'm sorry, just
no, go.
Representative Jetton is of course correct. And I know we understand this, folks on this call are pretty sophisticated, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game. When we take a Republican and put them in District X, we're taking them out of District Y. So in order to firm up Republican districts, it does have the effect sometimes of strengthening Democratic districts. So we just want to look overall on the net. Are we electing, you know, as many Republicans as we can under the law, under the Constitution? And we believe this congressional map does it. But sometimes we look at one district and say, wait, it got more Democratic. But overall, the map is good for Republicans.
All right. And so the next questions were, as usual, everyone's very enthusiastic about election integrity. So the first question is from Andrew Eller. He asks, can Senator Hughes explain Senate Bill 9 versus Senate Bill 10 and the differences for fixing the illegal voting penalties?
Oh, that's a great question about Senate Bill 9 versus Senate Bill 10. So Senate Bill 9, Senate Bill 10 deal with the governor's call. And there was an amendment added to Senate Bill 1 during the last special session. And it had to do with the penalties for illegal voting. And it also had to do with penalties for election fraud broadly. And so when the governor's call came out, he said, we want the legislature to pass legislation that deals with the penalties for illegal voting. And so Senate Bill 9, we drafted and filed narrowly tailored to exactly the literal words in the governor's call. But we were, Representative Jetton, of course, knows these issues well. Representative Cole Hefner, my state rep, and his staff were looking back, and they pointed out to us that the amendment, jumping back to the last session, the amendment that we're trying to correct did two things. It affected the penalty for illegal voting and also the penalty for election fraud broadly. And so there were two pieces to that amendment that needed to be undone. And Senate Bill 9 only addressed one of those pieces, the illegal voting. Senate Bill 10 addresses the illegal voting piece and the election fraud piece. And so Senate Bill 10 is got everything Senate Bill 9 has plus more. We filed Senate Bill 10 after Senate Bill 9, obviously. So once we passed Senate Bill 10, it made Senate Bill 9 moot because Senate Bill 9 is wholly contained within Senate Bill 10. I'm sorry for the hyper-technical answer, but Senate Bill 10 has everything in Senate Bill 9 plus. And so it deals with penalties for illegal voting and for attempted election fraud. So Senate Bill 10 completely reverses those penalty changes that were made in the last regular session. So that's the difference between the two bills. So it wasn't necessary for us to pass Senate Bill 9 because Senate Bill 10 has everything included.
Great. The next question is from Alan Vera. He asks, what is being done to get SB 47 heard in the House? And that was Betancourt's bill relating to election irregularities for anybody who doesn't know off the top of their head.
So I can't speak for Speaker Phelan, but I think that for most of the House leadership, you're going to find that our priority, our focus is on making sure we get these redistricting maps done. And so we need to get the 4 maps out of the House by the 19th, which is 11 days away from now. And so as long as we're able to get those done, I think we'll find other items move up the priority list. But I think that's the top priority at this point.
All right, and Sue Lynn Voigt asks, will there be training on all of these election laws? She says she gets a lot of questions about them.
I guess I'll jump in on this one. I know the Secretary of State is supposed to put together information on, they're going to compile the rules and documents on that, and you're going to find people like Donna Davidson and others that I'm sure are going to be very helpful in making sure that everyone's prepared for the next election cycle.
Yeah, and looking forward the committee been working on Texas election integrity. We're looking at trying to be sort of a clearinghouse of where you can get training and how you can access federal election law training, where you can access and just like Representative Jetton talked about, Donna Davidson and Eric Opiella are going to be a good source. We believe RPT is going to be a good source. We believe also that RNC is going to come in as well and do training. So look for it in the future. We'll be just giving that information.
Super. All right. Pauline Lesh had asked, I heard that a judge threw out sections of Texas election code about electioneering, freedom of speech regarding clothing and slogans. And Donna Davidson, for anybody who missed it, put in the chat a great answer. She said, Section 61.003 and 85.036 are struck down as unconstitutional infringements on the First Amendment right to free speech. And that order was from September 30th, 2021. So there you go in your answer for electioneering and what you can wear in a poll. The next question came from Charles Grindon. He said, Senator Hughes, is it your opinion that the audit in Arizona is done and should not be decertified?
Oh, great question. Thank you. And I confess I'm not an expert on Arizona law, but the 2020 election, again, we were devastated, right? As conservatives, as Republicans, we were devastated to see the results of the 2020 election, to see Joe Biden declared the winner of that election. I will say that's done. We don't like the result, but that election is over. Joe Biden is the president. I didn't vote for him, and he didn't carry Texas, but he is the president. And so when we do these audits of the 2020 election, this is to find out where the problems are so we can fix those problems. But at this point, there's no way that we can overturn the 2020 election. And again, that's me, and I know many people would like to, and I'm not the king. I'm just one vote. But under the law and under the Constitution, at least under the Texas Constitution, there's no way we could change that election at this point. I don't know about the Arizona law. They may have a way to do that, but I don't think so. When you get this far past an election, there's just no way to do it. So these audits are so we can find the problems and fix them so we get it right going forward.
Yeah, and I want to echo the same thing that Senator Hughes has said. I've got a very good friend that is Secretary of the Republican Party of Arizona, and basically they're not going to be able to overturn that election, but what it did do was it revealed what they have to be prepared for the next election and make sure that that election is done in compliance with the law and then it's fair. So just want to reiterate that it will not change the difference in Arizona.
All right. And then Ben Brown asks, what can we expect from Democrat court challenges of SB 1? Will a liberal judge be able to halt the implementation of SB 1?
That is a great question. And I've got a meeting this morning, believe it or not, after we get off this call, I've got a meeting talking about some of the cases that have been filed to block Senate Bill 1. And so, yes, we already have a few lawsuits against the state trying to block Senate Bill 1. The good news is we're on firm ground. The U.S. Constitution gives the states authority to run their elections, and we do everything. We did everything in that bill to comply with the law and the Constitution. We did more than we had to do as far as making sure that everyone was taken care of. So yes, there is litigation right now, and but I don't want to presume I'll talk again, but I'll probably, if you'd like, I'll have an update on that the next time we gather. But there have been a few lawsuits filed already to block Senate Bill 1. We're not worried about it. We believe the law is going to take effect, but there is some litigation. But like I said, I have a meeting in an hour where I'm going to get an update, so I'll know more the next time we gather.
All right. And the next question is from Thomas McCaig asks, will Speaker Phelan be getting SB 10 to the House floor for a vote?
I can jump in on that one again. It's a similar answer to previous. I think the focus is going to be on making sure that we get those 4 redistricting maps done. Like I said, we got the House map coming up on Tuesday. We'll see the Senate bill or the Senate map and the SBOE map coming likely next week as well. The congressional maps, of course, the Senate's hearing those, and as soon as those come over, we'll get those done. And as soon as we get done with those maps, I think we're going to see those other bills get fast tracked through, and we'll see which ones make it through. But I think that we're all determined to get as much of the agenda done as possible, so we're not coming back for a 4th, 5th, whatever it is, special session.
Okay,
Amen.
I think that was the last question, Karen, because we're looking at 3 minutes till 8. So again, I want to thank Senator Hughes and Representative Jetton and Attorney Donna Davidson for giving us a lot of meat in this session as well. A couple of call to actions. I think the priority in the House is to get the House map through. So if y'all have things that you would like changed in those maps, reach out to your state representative. And Representative Jetton has graciously put his email in the chat, so you can email him as well. And we really, really appreciate that. And then looking past getting the House bill done, if you want to look at it, may perhaps engaging your state rep to see if we can get the SB 47 through, that would be great. But I do know that the priority is to try to get these House maps through. So your call to action is look at your House maps, make sure they're what you like, and if not, reach out. and then prepare for the election integrity that we're going to need for this next election. I want to thank everybody for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And thank y'all again. And I look forward to continuing our phone call. Hopefully next week we've got everything done and the doors to the House and the Senate have been opened and the gavels have been put down, because I know, like I said, the theme for this year has been perseverance. And we really appreciate Senator Hughes and Representative Jetton and of course, Chairman Click as well, for y'all hanging in there and fighting the good fight. So thank y'all so much.
Thankful for you.
Thank you, Lisa.
See y'all next week.